and welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So I have here another inks comparison video, and this is Sheen Monster inks comparison number 4. So I think with that, let's go and swab up some of these inks. So I get a lot of questions on how I do these ink videos. So I decided I would add this to the front of each of the ink videos. I put links in the description, but I know some of you watch this on TVs or mobile devices, so you don't get to see this. So first off, the paper is the number one question I get asked. What paper do I use for these ink comparison videos? So this is the original Tomoe River. This is 52 GSM. And it is the white, not the cream, the white. Where possible, I try to go for the white because the cream can actually change the colour of the ink just a little bit. So this is Tomoe River 52 GSM in the white. A lot of people get confused as well because I have what looks to be a grid on this page, and it's actually an Oxford Optik pad. These are the pads that I actually use when I'm writing my writing samples for pen reviews or in my currently ink. So they have these little squares up here. I just use that because it's a good guide for me. When I put this very thin sheet of Tomoe River over, I can actually see squares, so it helps me write a little bit sort of straight on the page. Not always, but sometimes it does. The other thing that I also have is I have a bottle of water, plain water, and I dip my nib in here. So for consistency, I use the same fountain pen, or I guess it's not a fountain pen, it's using a fountain pen nib though. This is a 3D printed pen from William Shakour in the UK. So he prints this material 3D, and it has a number 8 size Bock nib which I can unscrew, and you can see there. So it is just a dip pen holder for a number 8 size Bock nib, and the idea is I want to have consistency with the writing sample. So I use this, I dip it in the ink, I write, and then I will dip it in here and I will rinse the nib off several times and I will dry it, and then at that point I will then go on to do the next ink swatch and the next writing sample. So there you have it. That's how I do my ink swatches. So I just wanted to show you that here. Now on to the ink comparison video. And the first thing we're going to have a look at is Herbin and its Violet Pensee. So we'll do an ink swatch here. Now I will say that I have not seen this ink Sheen a lot in person. I've seen a little bit of Sheen, but not a huge amount. So I'm going to try and coax it out here, but I'm going to need to put this on quite wet. And we'll see if we can get any Sheen out of this ink. Not all inks Sheen, and but you do find a lot of purple inks will Sheen, but they do have to be quite thick in ink dye, and also you need to make sure that in a lot of cases they are quite a dark purple ink as well. So this is Herbin, and it is a violet, and it is Pensee. But this is actually quite a nice ink. The next ink is a Herbin 1670 ink, and this is Emerald of Chivor, and it does also have shimmer in it as well. So I am going to try and shake the bottle just to activate this shimmer, because I do want to show how the ink will actually look like in real life, although you will find that there is a lot of shimmer on this ink. So we'll do an ink swatch, and this is a teal coloured ink, but look, you can see there the particulate that is being captured as I swipe that across the page. Now this is a teal ink, but it will sheen quite a nice red, but also have some gold shimmer to it. So we're just going to layer this on as much as we can, just to try and bring out that sheen. It's quite a wicked sheen. So this is Herbin, and it's Emerald of Chivor. And I just want to show, just in case I don't show the sheen on the paper, there is some red sheen around the rim of that bottle there. The next ink here is Herbin, and it's Rouge Hematite. And it will have some particulate there. And I'm just going to shake up this bottle as well, just to try and get that around. So it's going to have a little bit of a shimmer to it, but it's also should be a sheening ink. So we'll do an ink swatch, and I'm just going to try and layer this on as much as I can. It's a beautiful bright red ink here. So it does have some sheen as well as shimmer to it as well. So this is Herbin. And it is Rouge Hematite. But Rouge Hematite is quite a lovely Christmassy ink, as well as Emerald of Chivor, I would say. The next ink here is Organic Studios, and this is Walden Pond. Now, I do have to be careful with this, and also the ink after this, because it does have a lot of sheen to it. So these really can be sheen monsters. This one maybe not as much, but let's try it anyway. So this is a very, very thick viscosity ink. So there should be sheen here for sure. And we're going to try and layer this on as well so that we can really see this sheen. So this is Organics Studio, and it is Walden Pond. But this is a very, very sheeny ink. It starts out as a nice teal and then goes quite red. Now, the ink I left to last is Organic Studios Nitrogen. I have used a lot of this ink, but this, even the little dried, crusty bits of ink you have to watch out for when you unscrew that cap, and it just shatters those crumbs across your desk, because if you try to wipe those away, you will get ink smears. So we'll do an ink swatch. Now I'm going to try and layer this on as much as I can, because again, this is a super sheener, or a sheen monster as I'm calling them. Hopefully you can see that once this really dries, you'll see that sheen. So again, this is Organics Studio, but this is Nitrogen. But this is a very sheeny ink. And I'm going to try and show you here in the cap that has quite a lot of red sheen on it. And also around the rim of the bottle, which I'm trying not to get that crustiness on my desk, but I now have a load of it. I think let's now take a look at these inks now that they have dried a little bit. I did have a little bit of an accident here with Organic Studio Nitrogen. I thought it was still wet, but I thought it was still dry, but it was still quite wet. Um, but I think let's check out the first ink here, which is Herbin Violet Pensee. And if you take a look at this ink, there's quite a lot of shading going on here around the pulled area. There is also some very nice but subtle sheen going on. So if you look around these edges here, you'll see a load of sheen. And if I can try and get that there on camera, there you go. You can see a little bit of that sheen there. Now, there is a slight amount on the writing sample, but I can see a little bit of glistening, but it's not a massive amount. So you probably are not going to see this on the writing sample that much, unfortunately, and more so in maybe an ink swatch. The next ink is Herbin, and it is Emerald of Chivor. And this is not only a sheening ink, but also a shimmer ink as well. Is there a difference in the shading? Yes, there is. You can see it. There's a lighter and a darker area, but you're not seeing a huge amount of shading contrast between the two. Now, if I try to show you this here, there is some beautiful red goldish sheen and shimmer to this that you can see there. So there is a sort of sheen going on, but there is also more of a greenish goldish shimmer as well. And I think the two complement each other quite nicely. You can also see that there in that writing sample as well. The next ink is Herbin, and it is Rouge Hematite. And again, this is not only a sheening ink, but it's also a shimmer ink. So shimmer has sort of like gold or blue or silver particulate. So glitter, essentially. Now, can you see a lot of difference in terms of shading? There is some shading going on here. You can certainly see the light and the dark areas. Now, if I bring this up here and show you, you'll see that it has not only a nice red colour, but it also has this sort of goldish sort of shimmer and sheen going on there as well. Quite a nice colour, and you can definitely see it there in the writing sample as well. It's actually quite nice. Now, two of the real Sheen Monster inks are going to be the Organic Studio inks. And the first one here is Organic Studio, and it's Walden Pond. Now, this is a green ink, and you really can't see a lot of green because the sheen on it is so strong. It is a thick ink, and that's partly why. So if I just tilt this here, you will see that that has basically a huge amount of what looks like a metallic red sheen to it. There's no shimmer in this ink whatsoever. It is just pure sheen. And you can see that the ink writing sample here is more of a, looks more of a like a black, very dark green, almost black. But then when you tilt it, you have this wicked red sheen to it. The next ink here, which I did have a bit of an accident on, is the Organic Studio Nitrogen, which is a blue ink and not a green ink. But again, if I tilt this here, you will see some really wicked sheen going on there. And you can also see it there in that writing sample as well. So again, it's almost a black or a dark blue ink, which then sheens red. Very beautiful sheen. So if you like a sheening ink, then certainly the Organic Studios Walden Pond and Nitrogen are probably the most sheening inks that I have seen so far, certainly in my ink collection as well. There are other sheening inks from Diamine as well that you can get hold of, but these are definitely very high sheening inks. What you do have to be wary of, though, is these high sheening inks. Like if I was to touch this here, like Walden Pond, I'm not actually seeing it on my finger, but if I were to touch this, Again, I'm not seeing it here, but if I wet my finger, or there's moisture there, then that is going to transfer onto your fingers. And I have sent letters, and I have received letters that have been written both in Organic Studio Walden Pond and also Organic Studio Nitrogen, and they have taken 3 or 4 weeks to arrive, and the ink is still sort of sticky, and I wouldn't say wet, but if you were to run your fingers over the writing sample, you will suddenly see that your fingers are covered in a green or a blue sort of powdery ink. So you do have to be careful on these. So I typically try not to write letters with these inks anymore. I've also had where somebody has written a letter and folded it like in half and then in half again, so it's quartered, and I try to open it up, then you will actually see that the sides of the paper do stick together. It's almost like a glue, so you do have to be careful with that. Lovely looking ink though. So if you really want a master sheening ink, this certainly is that kind of ink that you should look at. So that's my Sheen Monster Inks Comparison number 4 video. If there are any of these inks that you like, then do let me know in the comments below. Likewise, if there are any other inks that you would like me to check out that Sheen, then do let me know in the comments below. So that's my Sheen Monster Inks Comparison number 4 video. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye-bye.